The story of retired NFL star Michael Oher and his adoptive mother, Ann Lee Tuohy, was canonized by the 2009 Academy Award-winning film, The Blind Side. The film told the story of Michael Oher's journey from poverty to NFL stardom after being adopted by a wealthy family in Tennessee. Now, more than a decade after its release and more than $300 million in earnings, Oher says his so-called parents never really adopted him. He's accusing the couple of tricking him into signing conservatorship paperwork, giving the Tuohys legal authority over his money and business deals. Oher alleges the Tuohys used their power as conservators to make millions in royalties from the film based on his life. Tonight, we're breaking down the law and the arguments on both sides of the Blind Side conservatorship case. Good evening to you and welcome to Closing Arguments. I'm Julie Grant, in tonight for Vinnie Politan. This evening, we start things off with a story out of Tennessee that many of us remember from the 2000 movie, The Blind Side. The film portrayed a rags-to-riches story for real-life NFL player Michael Oher, who excelled in football and in school after being taken in by the wealthy Tuohy family. But a new legal filing from Michael Oher is casting a much different light on this story. Oher is accusing the Tuohys of lying about his adoption and tricking him into signing a legal agreement and ultimately enriching their lives at his expense. We have some very special guests joining us on the program tonight, including one of the Tuohy family attorneys. But first, CNN's Bryn Gringus is going to get us up to speed on the case.
Bring back a lot of good memories.
Michael Oher. First, he was a homeless kid who experienced poverty.
The goal was to feed him.
But later, Oher became an American football star whose life story inspired the best-selling book and film, The Blind Side, earning a Best Picture nomination in 2009 and the Academy Award for Sandra Bullock as Best Actress. But now Oher's life story has taken a different turn. In a Tennessee court, the former football player has filed a petition to end Sean and Leanne Tuohy's conservatorship over him.
He became part of our lives.
Right after he turned 18, Oher moved in with the Tuohys. In the lawsuit, Oher claims the Tuohys told him they were going to adopt him, but instead filed a conservatorship which kept millions of dollars from him. The former NFL player is asking the Tuohys, quote, show cause for failure to meet their required duties to provide regular accountings or to act in his best interest. According to the court petition, Oher claims they gave him legal papers he thought were necessary for the adoption. What he signed, however, and unknown to Oher until after February 2023, were not adoption papers. Instead, the petition says the papers appointed Sean and Leanne Tuohy as his conservators with, quote, total control over Michael Oher's ability to negotiate for or enter any contract, despite the fact he was over 18 years of age and had no diagnosed physical or psychological disabilities. Oher claims the Tuohys falsely advised him that the adoption would have to be called a conservatorship since he was over 18. But according to the petition in 2006, the Tuohys, representing themselves as the adoptive parents, negotiated contracts for the movie The Blind Side.
Okay, big smile, Tuohy family.
The movie has reportedly grossed more than $330 million. The petition also states that another contract from April 2007 gave away Oher's name, likeness, voice to the movie studio, quote, without any payment whatsoever. Oher claims he, quote, at no time ever willingly or knowingly signed such a document. The petition is asking the Tuohys to provide a sworn accounting of the money belonging to Oher that he says should have been paid to him. But Sean Tuohy told a Tennessee newspaper that his family is devastated. It's upsetting to think we would make money off any of our children, but we're going to love Michael at 37, just like we loved him at 16.
Joining us by phone to talk more about this case tonight, one of the Tuohy family attorneys. Attorney Steve Faris is joining us. Steve, good evening to you. Thank you so much for calling into the program tonight.
Good evening to you, Julie.
Steve, let's just start with what we think is the million-dollar question. Is there any truth to what Michael Oher is saying?
Absolutely not.
Tell us why, please.
Well, why is because of the evidence, because of the proof. Let's take what has been thrown out into the ether in this lawsuit. You know, I have an old saying that saying it doesn't make it so. If you say something, you better be ready to back it up with evidence. Number one, he claims that he thought he was adopted. Well, it's awful strange that Mr. Oher wrote a book in 2011. In the book, he is quoted as saying there was a conservatorship established. He knew it was a conservatorship. So either he didn't write the book or didn't read the book, or what's put in the book is false. Well, we think what's put in the book is absolutely true. He's claiming he didn't find this out, in quotation marks, until February of 2023. That's just not the fact. Also, I heard the lead-in, and I don't know if CNN was doing the lead-in, but they were talking about adoption. In Michael's book, in the movie, nothing said about adoption. I'm sure many people have not read Mr. Oher's book or seen or gleaned in on the fact that nothing was said about him being adopted. However, they treated him as a son. They housed him. They clothed him. They fed him. They took him out of a terrible situation and groomed him in a good way to be a fine young man who later got a college scholarship, did well in college, got a pro contract. Now, let's go to number two. He was tricked. Well, number two, all you have to do is refer back to number one. There was no tricking going on. There was no money ever put into the conservatorship. The only reason the conservatorship was created was to allow him, Michael Oher, to make a choice between Ole Miss, LSU, and Tennessee. He, in fact, was leaning toward LSU until Nick Saban left, and then at the last moment decided he wanted to go to Ole Miss. He could not have gone to Ole Miss if there had not been a conservatorship set up, because the Tuohys were friends of the program. And that's an NCAA rule. Now,
and Steve, I just want to pause you for just a second, and I want to make sure we're clear on this. So you're saying the reason for the conservatorship, because that's something we wanted to discuss with you tonight, is that there would have been a conflict that would have violated NCAA rules had the family not established this for him in his college choice.
Absolutely. It's an archaic rule. It's an unfair rule. But the NCAA is not known for their fairness. So something had to be done, not for him to go to Ole Miss, for him to even consider going to Ole Miss. He made the decision where to go on his own. In fact, the Tuohys wanted him to go to Tennessee.
Oh, that's interesting, Steve. And help us understand something else, if you would, please. Why wasn't an adoption done back there at the time? Would you explain that for us?
Well, I don't want this to sound convoluted. And I want you to understand I'm not a probate expert. I don't deal with guardianships, conservatorships. I have done some adoptions in my day. There was a time crunch. This conservatorship was, I think it was filed on December 7th. Don't hold me to the year, but let's say 2006. Back then, the national signing date was February the 2nd of, let's say, 2007. The Tuohys weren't sure of what the gymnastics required to go through for an adoption. everyone wants to parse out the difference between an adoption and a conservatorship. Their purpose was to allow him to continue to be part of their family. They had already made him part of their family. This was just something that needed to be done to allow him to make the choices he wanted. They always treated him like a son, and nothing in the conservatorship prevented him from doing anything he wanted. He signed his professional contract on his own. He hired his own agent on his own, and it was an agent that the Tuohys had rather him not use. He ended up firing that agent. So all of his contracts, whether he had shoe contracts or any type of paraphernalia contracts, that was all handled by Michael. They never took a penny from Michael. Now, they provided a number of pennies for him.
What was the last thing you said there, Steve? Please, the audio was a little bit low. I didn't hear you said they provided...
They provided a lot of pennies to him.
They provided a lot of pennies to him. I understand what you're saying. Well, is there any truth to the claim that he didn't receive what he says was owed to him from the movie The Blind Side and the royalties that flowed therefrom?
That is absolutely fantastical in his thinking. The answer is positively no. There are records of the payout. There are records of the money he got when he stopped cashing the checks that were sent to him. The Tuohys put his portion into a trust account for his minor son, his being Michael Oher.
Wow, well, this is helpful to know. Steve, I want to continue the conversation, taking a look at some of the exact language that Michael Oher alleges. Of course, his attorneys filing this on Monday, this petition to terminate the conservatorship. We've pulled out some of the language to look at what he's saying, saying that the Tuohys tricked him into signing the conservatorship documents under the guise that they were adoption papers. Saying in the document in part that the Tuohys presented him with what he understood to be legal papers that were a necessary step in the adoption process. Goes on to say what he signed were not adoption papers. It was the petition for appointment of conservators. Michael Oher alleging that he was falsely advised by the Tuohys that because he was over the age of 18, that the legal action to adopt would be called a conservatorship, but it was, for all intents and purposes, an adoption. Steve, what's your response to this portion of that petition, please?
Well, you know, I can't climb into the minds of people. I've often tried and have been unsuccessful. I don't know what Michael thought. I don't know what his remembrances are how many years later? 15, 16 years later. I don't know what his understanding was at that time. I can only say the Tuohys are not tricksters. For the Tuohys to trick, in quotation marks, someone, and if you follow the line of their petition, they would have to be the masterminds of criminality that is unmatched. They would have to know that Michael was going to go to whatever school he was going to go to, that he was not going to be injured along the way, that he was going to have a successful college career, that he was going to be drafted in the first round of the NFL draft, and then a book was going to be written about it and a movie made that became a blockbuster. My goodness. It is absolutely fantastic.
Steve, we understand that the Tuohys have come out after this news of Michael Oher's allegations, and the Tuohys have said that he threatened them prior to having his attorneys make the court filing and threatened to plant a negative story about them in the press if they didn't pay him $15 million. Can you confirm that?
I can. And it went from 15, then it went to 10. And as generous and as loving as the Tuohys were and continue to be, they're not susceptible to a shakedown. And that was not going to happen because they didn't do anything wrong. That's how principled they are.
Appreciate it, Steve. Steve, we thank you for answering all of our questions. Is there anything else tonight that you think is really important for everyone to know about this case?
The main thing, and of course everyone has their own perceptions, but the main thing is that the Tuohys still love Michael. I don't think you ever quit loving a child that you brought into your family. They are devastated. They have received a serious punch in the stomach. Their reputation has been defamed. But the one message they want out is simply this. They don't want this to be a chilling effect on others and cause them pause to reach out and lend a helping hand to a deserving individual. That's their concern.
Steve Faris, thank you for sharing all of that tonight, for making time for us to come on the program. Please keep us apprised of any new developments as this legal battle seems to be just getting started. Take good care, Steve.
Thank you, Julie.
Thank you. We're going to squeeze in a break. Friends, when we come back, here's a preview of what we have coming up for you in our next hour of Closing Arguments. Charges against Alec Baldwin were dropped for his role in the movie set shooting that left cinematographer Helena Hutchins dead. But prosecutors say he could be charged again if a forensic analysis of the weapon determines he's at fault. Now, new court filings from his co-defendant are saying he was at fault. So, could we see Alec Baldwin be charged?
I take the gun out, and as it clears, as the barrel clears over, I turn and cock the gun over here. I turn and cock the gun goes off. It's supposed to be a cold gun.
A man married 6 times.
4 of his wives died under mysterious circumstances.
Eccentric widower Thomas Randolph,
charged with the murders of his wife and the man he allegedly paid to kill her.
A 2017 conviction overturned.
The plan between Mr. Miller and Mr. Randolph was to kill Sharon.
Now he faces a jury once again.
The Widower Murder Trial. Live coverage weekday mornings at 8, 7 Central on Court TV.
You have any place to stay tonight?
Michael Oher's biography of a homeless kid adopted by a family who helped him find NFL success was perfect for Hollywood. But Oher suggested in an interview this week, life was more complicated.
Before I moved in with the family, I was an All-American. That's what I want the generations behind me to see in this book right here, to understand that you don't have to have someone save you and rescue you to go out and be successful.
In that interview, Oher did not name the family he moved in with, Sean and Leanne Tuohy, but he did name them in this Tennessee court filing, saying conservators Sean Tuohy and Leanne Tuohy saw something else, a gullible young man whose athletic talent could be exploited for their own benefit. Oher alleges the adoption papers he thought he signed were instead for a conservatorship, which allowed his conservators to take full control over his contracts. What's more, he said the family profited millions from the movie.
I knew it was coming.
The Tuohy's son, Sean Jr., who is not named in the lawsuit and was a child when any agreements were signed, says texts refute Oher's statement he first discovered the conservatorship this year.
There were things back in 2020, 2021 that were like, if you guys give me this much, then I won't go public with things.
The lawsuit requests accounting for money earned and ending the conservatorship. The former offensive lineman hoping to call his own shots. I'm Emily Schmidt reporting.
Former NFL star Michael Oher, who we're talking about tonight, he's filed a petition with the Tennessee court to end his conservatorship that was overseen by Sean and Leanne Tuohy. Oher appeared on the Jim Rome Show earlier this week and talked about some of the issues that he had with the movie The Blind Side and with the Tuohy family. Take a look.
I think it took away the hard work and the dedication that I created from a child, and going to school in the 3rd grade, getting myself up, first one in the locker room, last one out. And I think the biggest for me is, being portrayed not being able to read or write.
And it wasn't that you don't have gratitude to the family that took you in. That's really
very
not the
grateful.
message.
Very grateful for every family that helped me throughout this journey. It's a lot of people that deserve a lot of credit. For me, I want to show the young people and everyone behind me that, hey, you deserve some credit for your hard work. You can get it done, and that's really the goal.
I want to bring in my guest now. Joining us tonight, ESPN senior writer who's covered the Blindside conservatorship case, Michael Fletcher, and senior reporter for DailyMail.com, the host of the Daily Mail Crime on TikTok, and victim advocate for Project Cold Case, Caitlin Becker. Caitlin and Michael, welcome to you both. So nice to see you tonight. Michael, I want to start with you, please. Tell us a bit about Michael Oher, especially what he's been up to since he retired from the NFL.
Well, Michael Oher, America and the world really learned his story, through the book, The Blind Side, and later the movie. And obviously he was a great athlete, an accomplished NFL player. And since his career ended, he played 8 years in the NFL, 2009 to the end of 2016. He's written 2 books in that time. He's gotten married. He has 4 children. But the way his lawyer tells the story, all that time, even with all the success, he earned a reported $30 to $35 million playing football. He always had this lingering question in his mind about the movie The Blind Side. First, you heard his objections to how he was portrayed, and his lawyer says he doesn't blame the Tuohys for that. But what he does blame the Tuohys for is this, what he calls tricking him into this conservatorship agreement that allowed them to negotiate a movie deal that he says cut him out of some pretty substantial profits. Now, whether the numbers are what he thinks they are, I think that, the courts will decide. But that's something that's been on Oher's mind a lot since his career ended. And he hired lawyers to look into it, and that's how we ended up where we are today.
Michael, thank you for that. Caitlin, to you next, please. I understand Daily Mail has obtained an exclusive interview with someone connected to this case in a way. Would you tell us about it, please?
Yeah, we have a great video interview up on the site right now with Quinton Aaron. He's the actor who portrayed Michael Oher in the film The Blind Side. And he found out about this story just like we found out about this story in the media. He had no prior knowledge of any of the interworkings of the Tuohy family and Oher's relationship. But he did say that when making the film, Michael Oher wasn't really involved. He didn't come to set. He actually only met him after filming had wrapped, but that the Tuohys did visit the set semi-frequently. And from his perspective, I guess, as an actor sort of looking at this, in the grand scheme of things, if you're doing a biopic of sorts, or you're doing something based on a true story or based on the real people, and the people are still around, it is crucial to have all of those people involved in the makings of these projects so you can avoid someone looking at it in hindsight saying that's not how it happened. Now, of course, all of these things are always changed a little bit for the media's sake and for the art of the film, but, it's undeniable that if you look at the movie The Blind Side, it's a great movie. It's a feel-good movie. There is absolutely a white saviorism complex in this movie that is impossible to deny. I don't know if it would have been angled like that if it was made today, but the fact of the matter is the movie was about star Sandra Bullock and not necessarily Michael Oher, and I think we shouldn't get necessarily too caught up in how they were portrayed versus what was going on financially behind the scenes with this conservatorship. I have a lot of questions about how at 37 years old, you would still be under a conservatorship without having any kind of, mental or physical disability, because I've covered conservatorships with Amanda Bynes and Britney Spears for years. There's also check-ins in court where you consistently go and look at these things. So to not even know you were in one for something like 20 years, I don't understand.
Caitlin, thank you for that. Sean and Leanne Tuohy recently appeared on the Bravo reality show Below Deck. Forgive me, this appearance is from 2017. I'm misspeaking. 2017 appearance. This was while they were aboard a luxury yacht, and they talked about the negotiations that they went through for the movie The Blind Side. We want to show you that clip from the episode, which was titled Blindsided.
I get a call from Steven Spielberg, Harvey Weinstein. I had to give them the rights to use our name. And I said, I'll give you the rights to use the name if I get to read the script and approve it or unapprove it. And so, sure enough, 7 months later, we get an envelope in the mail and it's a script.
Okay, just a brief clip there. But this legal battle is just beginning, as we know. The Tuohy family attorneys are fighting this, and we understand they're ready to, let this go at this point. He wants this conservatorship terminated. No point in keeping it, but it just seems that this could get really, really ugly as it keeps brewing. And perhaps you both heard in the segment before we had you come on, we had one of the attorneys, Steve Faris, on telling us that he's confirming that Michael Oher was trying to shake down the Tuohys for money, saying that first he asked for $15 million, then went down to $10 million, threatening to plant a negative story if he wasn't paid. I'm curious about his financial picture. And Michael, I want to go back to you for this one, please. I was kind of wondering what he's been up to since retirement, especially to answer the question, is there a need for money? Is there any truth to, what they're saying about this shakedown? We know, yes, he played in the NFL. Yes, he was on a Super Bowl team and he played for the Ravens, but he's certainly not an NFL superstar, a household name, somebody who's going to go down in history as an NFL legend. Usually most people hear the name and go, oh, the movie The Blind Side is about him. Right, I know who we're talking about. Michael, have you heard anything about whether he was in any financial turmoil?
No, I haven't heard that at all. And, if he is, that would be news to me. I literally don't know. But I do know that he made over $30 million playing in the NFL. Now, we know NFL players and all professional athletes, particularly young men, could go through money quickly. But that's a fair sum. So, and he's also written a best-selling book, and he has a second book that's out now. So my sense is that he's okay financially, but I don't know. And so far as the shakedown goes, that's come from the Tuohys lawyers and their, public relations people. And I'm not saying, I don't know about that one way or another, but we've yet to see the evidence. Mm-hmm. They talk about text messages, how are they reading those text messages? What's the context of those text messages? I think we have a lot to learn in the coming weeks and months, about what really went on here, as well as the accounting. How much money was really made, by people, by The Blind Side? We know the movie grossed over $300 million and many more millions in home video sales, but how much made its way to the writers and to the, to the people whose stories it is?
That's a great point, Michael. Yes, thank you for that. Absolutely, there's going to need to be, forensic accounting done on this case. Both sides ought to want that, really, just to see what has happened, what has not happened, who's owed what, if anything. Caitlin Becker, back to you, please. Tell me, are you hearing of any celebrities or even former NFL stars or current NFL stars that are supportive of Michael Oher in what he's coming out and saying?
No, everyone has really taken a side with this. I know that there were a lot of people who have questioned, just the same way I questioned, especially being sort of ensconced in the celebrity world, how the conservatorship went on for so long. So before you even get into the details of was he paid, was he not paid, the biggest question that a lot of people have is how did it happen for so long? I mean, just listening to what Mike just said about the books that he's written and the money that he has made in the NFL, you have to sign contracts for each and every one of these deals. And under a conservatorship, I don't believe that you're allowed to sign those contracts by yourself. But I heard in the previous segment, the Tuohy's attorney say that he was allowed to sign the contract. So something is not adding up here. And that, I think, is a big question in the industry as to why that is.
We're going to have a probate attorney on with us in a short time, you know, and I certainly don't want to paint with broad brushstrokes and hear the terms of this conservatorship. We're not, you know, necessarily privy to. But I appreciate what you're saying, Caitlin, and I know at first glance, I had the same question in my mind until I heard Steve Faris say tonight this was because of NCAA rules. You know, I had the thought, well,
sure,
there was no medical condition,
now.
there was no, right, you know, but what was going on? And he was saying this had to be established, it seemed like, because of the relationship the Tuohys had with Ole Miss. I'm sorry, one more time, please. And okay, and I'm being told, you know, on that point, Michael Fletcher, let me go to you on this one, please. Anything you would like to add, you know, with respect to the conservatorship establishment or any of the reporting that you've done on some of what Michael Oher has said about that, please?
You know, the question I have is, you know, you can argue about the need for a conservatorship. Certainly adult adoption was an option back then. I know the Tuohys lawyers say that may have taken a longer period of time. I have not vetted that with other lawyers to know. So that's, you know, that's a question, you know, to me. Like what, and the second thing is, you know, why has the conservatorship lasted this long, even if you deemed it the need to have it at the time? And the third question is, why did the Tuohys represent it as an adoption? I mean, if it was a conservatorship, it was a conservatorship, fine. If that's, you know, if that's the reason you did it was so you can have the option of going to Ole Miss, fine. Just tell the world that that's the case. But if you look at, you know, their websites and things like that, they kind of talk about it as an adoption. And maybe they're using that term colloquially, but I think it has a certain pull, that word, and you have to wonder whether that, you know, whether they were genuine in doing that.
Yeah, really great points you both are making here. You know, because I think when you watch the movie, I understand it's Hollywood. You know, it's based on his life. It's not that we're taking every single fact and translating it to the big screen. But I think many people who enjoyed the movie so much thought it was an adoption. You know, Caitlin, did you think the same? You know, I mean, I think many of us who enjoyed it were thinking, oh, wasn't he their adopted child?
Truly, I would like to go back in the archives and look at the reporting that I've done and we've done over the years at the Daily Mail. I'm sure we've said Michael Oher, the adopted son of the Tuohy family, in articles because we were under the impression that he was an official legal part of that family. I mean, we can get into the weeds with the legality of what was faster and what wasn't, but they certainly represented themselves in the media as one big family. None of that was corrected after the film The Blind Side. And as I'm looking at the B-roll that you guys are putting up here with the photos of the family is up there as he's getting his jersey. The family is with on the sidelines. One of the photos, Leanne Tuohy she's on the sidelines with a sticker on her blazer that says Mom. By all indications, from my perspective as a reporter, this is one family, one unit.
Great points. Caitlin Becker, Michael Fletcher, so wonderful talking with you both tonight. I know you're going to both continue reporting on this case as we will hear. And be sure again to check out that exclusive interview on dailymail.com with the actor who played Michael Oher in The Blind Side. Caitlin and Michael, have a good night. We're going to squeeze in a break. When we come back, we'll have more for you on The Blind Side Conservatorship Case. A man married 6 times.
4 of his wives died under mysterious circumstances.
Eccentric widower Thomas Randolph.
Charged with the murders of his wife and the man he allegedly paid to kill her.
A 2017 conviction overturned.
The plan between Mr. Miller and Mr. Randolph was to kill Sharon.
Now he faces a jury once again.
The Widower Murder Trial. Live coverage weekday mornings at 8/7 Central on Court TV.
This is an important...
Why'd you do it? What? All along, you wanted me to go to Ole Miss.
Well, of course I did. We love Ole Miss.
Why'd you do this for me?
What?
Everything. Was it for you or was it for me? Was it so I would go to school where you wanted? Was it so I would do what you wanted?
Michael, no.
That's what she thinks. Is she right?
Michael, honey, I need for you to just listen to me, all right?
You dare lie to me.
Quinton Aaron as Michael Oher and Sandra Bullock, of course, as Leanne Tuohy in the movie The Blind Side. Tonight, we're looking at Michael Oher's petition filed this week to terminate his conservatorship from the Tuohy family. Let's take a look together at some of the key allegations that he is making. So, taken straight from the document, he says almost immediately after Michael moved in, the Tuohys presented him with what he understood to be legal papers that were a necessary step in the adoption process. Michael trusted the Tuohys and signed where he needed to sign. What he signed, however, and unknown to Michael until after February of 2023, were not adoption papers. Instead, it was a petition for appointment of conservators. The conservatives have total control over Michael Oher's ability to negotiate for or enter any contract, despite the fact that he was over 18 years of age and had no diagnosed physical or psychological disabilities. I want to bring in our guest now. With us, probate and estate planning attorney. He's also a former member of law enforcement. Matt Hinson is with us. And clinical and forensic neuropsychologist and professor at Pepperdine University, Dr. Judy Ho, with us as well. Wonderful to see you both tonight. Thank you so much for being on the show. Let's just start with this legal battle that is really heating up here. Matt, let me start with you, please. What can we expect here with him wanting this conservatorship terminated? The Tuohys saying essentially, we're ready to let this go now, but we didn't do what you're saying we did. What kind of fight is going to happen in court?
Because it's a conservatorship, we're likely going to see a lot of things happen behind the scenes, things that are confidential, that the public's not going to be aware of. In the last 48 hours, we've seen a lot of things being litigated publicly, mainly because of likely folks wanting to protect their image and their name. But we're likely to see a lot of hidden information. These types of litigations can be prolonged, they can last years, and sometimes they get resolved pretty quickly. But what we can expect is a lot of things happening probably in the press, as well as a lot of things happening quietly in the court system.
Yeah, this case is certainly playing out in the court of public opinion, definitely. And I think something that had all of us scratching our heads was that there wasn't any type of disability or medical condition that might warrant it. We touched on this in our last segment. Caitlin Becker brought it up. Use the example of Britney Spears, which is a great one to talk to you about, Dr. Judy. You come on and give us analysis on all sorts of different cases that have psychological issues. And here, Michael Oher saying there isn't that component. That's not what's going on here. Here, according to the Tuohy family attorney, it was something else. It was to make sure that he was able to go where he wanted to go for school and that there was no violation of any NCAA rules because of the Tuohy's relationship with one of those schools. A very wealthy family, I imagine, possibly benefactors to the program. That was my reading of it. Dr. Judy, how many conservatorships have you, been consulted on or given analysis on where there hasn't been that component of a mental health difficulty?
Yeah, conservatorships, and again, I'm not the legal expert on this. There are different types of conservatorships, and a lot of conservatorships that we're most familiar with is if somebody doesn't have decision-making capacity, for example. This could be younger people, adults, or older people. It could also be that there is a mental health component to it, but there are some conservatorships where they are established mostly because they are putting somebody else financially in charge, and it was something that they are willfully deciding to do. So without knowing all of the legal specifics, because I'm not a legal expert, I do know that there are these different types of conservatorships. And perhaps sometimes when the court says, okay, these are people who are willing to do this, we're not going to look into it any further, we're going to just go ahead and approve it. But it is interesting that this has gone on for so long, that the conservatorship lasted as long as it did. And usually there is something in the court system that allows you to revisit that more often. So it really does depend on, I think, the judge. It depends on the particular circumstances. Now, it sounds like Michael has been distancing himself supposedly from the family over the last decade or so. And who knows what's happening behind the scenes, where now he's feeling like he was taken advantage of, as opposed to this was something supportive for him so that he could have a professional career in the sport of his choice. I think that that's really what's going on here, the timing of everything, and thinking about the fact that he has been distancing himself and what was going on behind the scenes. And maybe at some point he started to feel betrayed somehow, that he wasn't actually adopted, and that really this was a conservatorship as an agent for him to be able to do what he needed to do in college.
Right. So well said. Thank you for all of that, Dr. Judy. Michael Oher's petition to terminate this conservatorship details just how and when the Tuohys, the conservators, negotiated the deal for the movie The Blind Side. This seems like such a big part of this. And in the document, I want to pull out a certain portion of it saying in August of 2005, Michael entered University of Mississippi as a freshman. By September 2nd of 2006, The Blind Side, Evolution of the Game book came out based on Michael's life. That was released then. Shortly thereafter, the conservators started contract negotiations with 20th Century Fox regarding their personal rights and the right of their minor children to the movie. The conservators negotiated for themselves and natural-born children a contract price of $225,000 plus 2.5% of all future net proceeds. Okay, so Matt Hinson, let me go back to you on this. It seems to me that Michael Oher is saying that he didn't get what was owed to him from this movie. And the family, the Tuohy family, is saying all the proceeds, everything was divided evenly, nothing was stolen, we didn't take a dime from him, we gave him so much, there's nothing owed. What's going to need to happen? Is there going to be a forensic accounting ordered by the judge? I would think both sides would want that. What do you think, please, Matt?
That's a great question. And in a lot of these situations, there's going to be a paper trail. And whether or not those funds came into the conservatorship, whether they were directly paid to him, there's a lot of confusion right now because of the litigation in the media, sort of say. There's a lot of things that are out there that some people are speculating on. The big thing here is, and I think everybody needs to remember, these are allegations that are being made by one party and there are defenses being made by another party. And as a public, we need to make sure that we respect the court process as this plays out, because there's a lot of information we may not know and we may not ever find out. But in these types of circumstances, there's generally a paper trail. What happened to the money? Where did it go? It is unique that there hasn't been an accounting, that the conservatorship has gone on for so long, but those issues can fairly easily, because of the paper trail financially, be remedied and or answered. We just may not find out what the answer is.
Right, and I appreciate that so much, Matt. Thank you. And Dr. Judy, just to kind of put a bow on this, you mentioned something that really resonated with me. You said maybe there's a feeling of betrayal or something, whether there's any truth to it. You know, sometimes people can experience things, you know, whether or not something is factually right. Do you understand what I'm saying? Could that be what's going on here?
Perceptions are so important because that is the person's individual experience. And there really isn't much of an objective reality sometimes when we're talking about relationships and how people perceive it on both sides. And I also have heard statements from the Tuohy family saying, you know, they're brokenhearted about how the relationship has become sour, it sounds like, over these last years. So I think each side has their opinion, each side has their belief about what happened, and probably the people who are around them are supporting those beliefs too. So it can really charge up your emotions and make you feel like, you know, we did so much for him on one side, and the other side is, well, you're just benefiting from the fact that I made it. And these are really personal feelings. And there's also probably another background history on both sides of the story about other past experiences they've had, how they each grew up, that make this even more emotionally painful, maybe, which is probably why we're seeing this right now at this stage.
This is really helpful. Dr. Judy Ho, Matt Hinson, wonderful to see you both tonight. Thank you so much for all of your analysis. We'll see you soon.